Hello and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Saturday, the 20th of January. I am Flat Cap Callum and I'm hoping you are all very, very well. Right then. What a bag of shite this week's been. I mean, come on. Uh, yeah, I feel like deja vu. This happened the first week of the year. Just literally had an absolute nightmare and then saved it on the Saturday. Well, I would quite like Lightning to strike again, but there's no guarantees in this game. Sometimes you just have an absolute shite week, and this week could be it. There really isn't much going anywhere close. Yeah, my all-weather radar, it does, it's weird. Up until Christmas, good, and then historically my form read goes a little bit awry then as we get into the following year. Yeah, we will see. I'm going to talk you through because I've spent a lot of time on tonight's stuff. I know there's literally 3 meetings and one of them might get abandoned. But yeah, you can choose to have a rest if you're having a bad run. You can choose to just crack on through it. My way of dealing with it, sometimes I might need a rest. Today's way of dealing with it is, right, I am just going to double down and spend so much more time going through these things and looking through results from the last couple of days, looking at the form reads from the horses that perform well the last couple of days, looking at different angles for what I can get on Saturday. So whether or not it would have come up with exactly the same outcome, I don't know. But what I have got for Saturday is a Yankee at Lingfield, and a combination double at Wolverhampton. So I've kept the 2 meetings separate. I'm not doing anything in Ireland. I had a look through the meeting and there was a couple of marginal ones that I could have pulled out. But with the kind of prospect of no racing there at all, and then not necessarily being completely convinced about the impact of the ground if the racing was on. So if it's on, is it going to be frost melting into the ground? Therefore, that's going to make it a little bit dodgy underfoot. Or is that literally a top layer of frost melts and actually the ground's pretty hard underneath? So I didn't like the read of over in Ireland. What I would say is if Ireland was on, I would be keeping my eye on Dally Ginnigan's rides. That would be the ones I would look at. I think he's got 3 rides, and I think they're all potentially interesting rides. Certainly in terms of the price from night before. But yeah, if Irish racing goes on, that would be my only steer to you. But as far as the channel goes, we're going to stick with our main bet, Yankee at Lingfield and combination double at Wolverhampton. That is what I have got for you. So before we do that, we'll run down the recap of Friday. That won't take long, will it? And then we'll do a mention on the golf. Now, before we do any of that, context. Always context. I'll give you the context. And you've been here a long time, you know the context. But yeah, I'm not trying to teach people to suck eggs on here. But the point is, we've had an awful week. We had an awful week the first week until the last day. We are still very, very marginally ahead. £6 some pence ahead in this physical calendar year for the 19 days of January. Now, the majority of punters will be behind in that time. That is a true fact of racing life. So to be £6 ahead is better than to be £6 behind. I'm not going to rave about the fact I'm £6 ahead, but the point is, yes, it's been an awful week, a really, truly awful week. I mean, 28 horses, 1 small price winner and 3 places, and 24 dots. And of them dots, most of them didn't really get that close. It's pretty awful. And irrespective of kind of price, like we were on a couple for Friday, 6 to 1, 7 to 1 types that went off 7 to 2 favourites. Those ran as badly as a 33 to 1 shot. Just the radar is off. Now, sometimes that can just be just got it wrong. Sometimes the radar's just off, and gradually it'll come back on again. And sometimes the radar looks like it's off, and actually no, it's just variance. And then when you get to one day, it all gets dumped on, and one day, and you get you get some nice results. But strike rate is definitely low for January. I said at the start of this week it had been low. It's got lower as this week's gone on. And I did say at the start of the year, January is the month, statistically the month where we have been the most challenged in terms of profit making. And some of that comes with, because there's not lots of days where there's loads of different races, loads of extra places to put together and do all sorts of funky combinations, which is where I often thrive. And some of the all-weather meetings, and my all-weather radar's not been so good, and there's been a lot of Wolverhampton. Got a bit more Wolverhampton for Saturday. I don't know if anyone watched ITV racing on Friday at Wolverhampton. I didn't. So just to check myself as well, I did say I did a disservice to ITV. I suggested they were showing Wolverhampton on Saturday. That is not true. They showed Wolverhampton on Friday. Saturday's racing on ITV is Lingfield and Navan. So yeah. If you look at the history of the channel, we're up for January. Or it feels horrible. These weeks feel horrible. It feels horrible, putting out tips and then at the end of the day going, well, literally nothing was anywhere near. So understandably, people get frustrated. Understandably, people make little backhanded comments and stuff like that. That's part of it. Not everyone can understand the point here that we're trying to do, that we're making long-term profit. That isn't everyone's game. Some people would like to just have lots of winners, and it doesn't matter to them about making profit. Well, it does, but they think they do make profit when they don't make profit. It almost brings me to tears. You go on, you look at these most popular bets, and today one of the most popular bets had Sandreas in it at Dundalk and won. I mean, it won. Of course it won, but it was 1-20. I mean, a 3-runner race. Things can go wrong with a 1-20 shot, whatever it was. I think it was 1-20. Saw people doing trebles. It was a popular bet, a treble, 2 odds-ons to go with San Andreas. Brilliant. You come out and you've probably doubled your money. But on more than 50% of those occasions, you'll actually lose your money and you lose overall doing those bets. But yeah, some people won't be converted. Some people just like to have lots of winners, and in their head they won't know. And it was interesting actually. Shosman made a comment about his Paddy Power account, and he did a little bit of a look-see to see of kind of over the year profit and loss. And profit and loss aside, he actually surprised himself about the volume of turnover, and I think a lot of punters do, because people hold on to and they remember the days when they won a nice bet. But what you don't realise is then how much over the course of a year you can constantly reinvest all the time. And part of me keeping a profit and loss for the channel is, like I would do in real life, is to understand what is the level of money staked to the level of money returned to give you a percentage. Now, I get people get a bit wrapped up in but you've only made X amount of percent off that. That's real life. If it was easy to make hundreds and hundreds of percent all the time over the course of a long period of time, like you bet 10 grand and you win 100 over the course of a year, then that would be easy, wouldn't it? Right? So professional punting is not easy. You can't just rock on 10 grand and win and expect to have 100 at the end of the year, unless you happen to get very lucky and found some weird just bet 10 grand on one bet, right? So that's me. I mean, most people might pick a couple of horses a day. Clearly, I turn over a lot more horses and still try and get a margin from that. But yeah, anyway, I appreciate I'm rambling. It's tired. This video was up later than I thought. Anyway, Friday, that was about what I would say about that. The only thing I would say, credit in there, is Angelica Catalama. I did say it was a 4th to 5th horse, and it was 5th. So some people may have got some level of return on that one. Nothing for the channel, but yes, it was one of the principals definitely underperformed, and then there was a couple of others that got quite well backed in, but that horse did finish 5th, and so some would have got paid out on 5th if they'd done those extra places. That's all that can be said about that. I mean, Dundalk, just no. I mean, at least that horse got a run. I mean, to be better to have a refund, wouldn't it? But got a run and it was well backed in, but it doesn't make any difference. But yeah, they were all backed in. Even that was it? I think went off about similar, but the others were all backed in. Doesn't make a difference under just because something's backed in. That means it's gonna win. Just means you were on the value, but not on this given day. The value didn't pay off on that specific horse. Golf, mentioned on the golf, we've got one in the frame in each tournament, so we're okay. I think we've lost 3 have missed the cut. So there's 7 golfers, 3 missed the cut across the 2 tournaments, and then in both tournaments we've got Lee Hao Tong in the places with Langasque, 3 or 4 shots behind. And then over in the US, we've got Siwoo Kim in the places with Putnam 4 shots back. So we've got 1 in the frame and 1 3 or 4 shots behind the frame in both tournaments, and we've lost 3 golfers. So it's not. I'll take that. I'll take that at the halfway stage. We'll see how we go. That's the golf. So we'll do Wednesday's bet. Oh my life! Do Saturday's bet. I wish it was back on Wednesday, and because could know what the results were for the rest of the week, but sadly not. And what was going to say? He said, and then I need to do the tips of the league. So here's the main bet. I've spent a lot of time, whether that makes any difference at all or not, because generally speaking, for the channel and for personally, because I live a very busy life, I have to trim down and speed read form a lot of the time. Sometimes I have a little bit more time, and generally speaking, it doesn't impact the results. I know people will be like, well, surely if you're not putting enough time and effort into it. I put a lot of hours into it most days. I put a little bit more considering I'm just really looking at a Lingfield and a Wolverhampton meeting. I put a lot of time and effort in. Just to try and validate certain things or look at reasons why certain horses wouldn't perform well or would perform well and that kind of stuff. And this is what I am left with. So 125, we've got 4 races in a row. Bear in mind, Lingfield is not a good track for strike rate for us, although it has been the source of a couple of nice, decent winners. And I do remember personally once having a lovely bet at Lingfield. Well, a couple of times actually. Personally, I've got a couple of nice memories of Lingfield. Remember one day going to Lingfield, and the first race, I can't remember. It was something like a 7 runner. And I think the horse was 25, 33, something like that. And it was one of my favoured ones for the day. And I went rather large on it to start the day off. And it won. It covered the cost of everything for the rest of the day. I can't remember what happened the rest of the day. I think it was okay. But made a profit on the whole day on the first race. That was a very memorable trip to Lingfield. Anyhow, right, 125. Pride of Nepal. Things I was going to mention about that one. Stepping back up in trip. I think that's the right thing for that horse. It's been running over 10. This is 12 furlongs. So I think it's been kept down a little bit and I think hopefully coming back to a little bit of form. Lingfield, it seems to run the track well enough. Cameron Noble has been booked to ride. Now, he has ridden that horse 4 times. That's the only time he's ever ridden for Jeremy Scott, is when he's ridden this horse, and he ran it 4 times, and that was like 18 months ago, and he was 2 wins, a second and a third on the horse. So when he has ridden the horse, he's got on with it very, very well. But outside of that, hasn't ridden for Jeremy Scott, and hasn't really ridden very much recently. He also has another ride at Lingfield. I think it's the favourite in a different race, but I thought it was an interesting jockey booking for a jockey that's not had lots of runs in the last sort of year really, but has previous on that horse. So Pride of Nepal, we're in at 16s. 2 o'clock Lingfield. I can't believe the price of that one. I really can't. I'm not sure what the market's going to do with it, but Woodstock City, right? Now, last time out, it ran at Newcastle, and it ran up with the pace, and it just sort of faded towards the end. Now, horses are unfamiliar with Newcastle. That can happen, right? So the difference between Newcastle and a lot of other all-weather tracks is Newcastle is a straight 1 mile. That makes a difference. So the horse wasn't coming off a bend, which is what it's used to doing. But also, it's got a stiff finish, i.e. it goes a little bit uphill towards the finish, whereas most all-weather tracks, that is not the case. Well, I say not, it isn't the case for other all-weather tracks. Certainly not as stiff as Newcastle. At the end, you can get a little bit tired out there. So if you go back the previous run, I think it was Wolverhampton, it ran a really decent race against horses that have gone on to sort of continue to be running really, really well. And it was about 3 lengths back in third place. And that was its first run since it came over from France. And it won also 1 mile at Deauville on the all-weather. And that would be another all-weather track with a bend in, like Wolverhampton, like Lingfield. So it's never been to Lingfield before. And that would be one sort of query in the book there. But in terms of actual form of 1 mile on the all-weather on a track with a bend, it's got really, really good form. It's handicapped really, really well. Whether that's good enough to get in the top 4 or not, we'll find out. But 40 to 1, not a chance. I couldn't believe it when I looked at it. I had it at about 12s. Good price, I think, on that. We'll find out. 235 Lingfield. Tricky one, that one. It's a sprint one, and sometimes you can get right blanket finishes on there. I think the value play is Lord Ridderford. It's run consistently well the last few times. I wouldn't necessarily say it looks like Lingfield's its favoured track if you go through all the history. It's run a lot of times. It's an experienced horse, but it's been running in form in terms of I think it's like 2nd, 3rd and 5th in its last 3 runs, not necessarily in that order. And not really an obvious reason for it to not run up to standard again, and tend to find sprinters run into form and run out of form. So I'd rather take it when it's looking like it's running consistently, than I'd rather do that than take a chance on a horse sort of coming in off the race a little bit unfit. So tricky race, but I think that's the value. And in the 310 Lingfield, I had that the borderline favourite horse behind the scenes. I think it's a really well handicapped horse. It's slightly stepping up in distance. It was 1.5 miles, I think. That ran over in France. Actually, that was another one that's been in Deauville, but trained in the UK, but had a run over in Deauville. It also ran over in Dundalk as well. So I think that horse wants 1.2 miles. So I think stepping up again, same as the top one, is a good move. But 8 to 1, I think it's a really good price. I'm not sure it's going to move in, but I just think it's a good price because I would personally have it at 4s. So we've got 20p each way Yankee, we've got 350p each way singles, Pride of Nepal, Woodstock City and Lord Ridderford, and we've got a 50p win single on Behind the Scenes, and then a 30p each way double, the top 2, which I think are the best 2. So Lord Ridderford's got a couple of points on Pride of Nepal, but I think there's a bit more value in Pride of Nepal's price. 850 is the total for the main bet. Sky come out just ahead with extra places. Hills are then second, because there are 2 races they are more advantageous than everyone else. And then you kind of into everybody else pretty much. So 365 Paddy Coral Ladbrokes, where you get your best price guaranteed. 850, that's the main bet. Okay. And then Wolverhampton, had a little debate about this and about whether to put anything in. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep my Lingfield separate. I'm happy with those Lingfields. I've got 4 horses, 4 races. That's solid. And in these ones, I've kind of got 2 at different points of the market. I was like, let's just do this as a combination double. So I'll save a bet if it all goes wrong at Lingfield and the week continues to be bad. We are down to a combination double at Wolverhampton to save the weekend. 6 o'clock, Gentle Fire. So that's a 2 mile race. I think that horse looks better over a little bit further than what it's running in. It needs to sort of bounce back a little bit, but it's where's it gone? It's James Evans has taken over training it. I think it's run once for him. And I'm wondering on breeding whether or not he might make it a bit of a dual purpose horse and start trying it over hurdles as well. It has won a 2 mile bumper at Lingfield on all weather surface. But I think if he can bring that horse on a little bit, I think that price is potentially looking a little bit big. And he's got Joe Levy riding it, claiming 7, which I think is a fairly shrewd enough move on that. Because I think Joe's very good value at the moment for £7. So it needs to bounce back, and that's why it's 20 to 1. But I think it's worth chancing. and I've put it with Bailey's Warrior, which is run decent enough the last two times. It seems to have improved a little bit, certainly off previous kind of back end of last year form. It stepped up in terms of, get my words out, it's performed better the last two times over 2 mile and a mile and 6 compared to when it was running over a mile and 4. So I think it seems to want a bit further. Definitely a single figure price horse, so I thought that was worth having in. And then 6:30 we've got Harbour Vision, which has been a regular. Now that horse needs to go out prominently, and the last two times it's run badly. One of them I would give it an excuse for, because it was, well, but arguably both times. And that's the reason why I've kept it in. It ran twice badly. Once because it was really slowly away, which is not its preferred style. So that sort of did it on that run. And then last time it was running in a hands and heels, same jockey as today, but a hands and heels race. And I think back into regular handicap with that jockey's claim meaning a little bit more. I think it's worth chancing. He has ridden it before and placed it last spring or summer, I think it was. And so, yeah, I think if the horse is ridden a bit more prominently, that would be better. And then Covert Legend, I think we're talking about that. It's got a bounce back from last time. Other than that, I think the form looks pretty good. So 4 times 25p each way doubles. It's 250p each way singles, Gentle Fire and Harbour Vision. 250p win singles, Bailey's Warrior and Covert Legend. So the total is £4 expenditure at Wolverhampton. Sky 888 and Hills, because they'll offer you 4 on both races. Everybody else is pretty much 4 on one and 3 on the other. That's bet 2. So it's £12.50 is our outlay for the week. And we're trying to build on the £5.20 return that we've had so far for our, whatever it is, 50, I can't remember, £51, £53 outlay. So that is that. Tips, well, I'll do Tips the League and I'll talk about Sunday. So Tips the League. The time making this video, if Navan's on, then on ITV Racing, it's 4 races at Navan, 4 at Lingfield. There is a backup plan that they have as well. So for the Tips the League, you can make your choices, right? Because you're not worried about getting the price. The Tips the League is all about starting price and Sky Bet extra places. So at the time of making the vid, you've got 4 races at Lingfield and 4 at Navan. They're in the comment attached to this video. If Navan's off, I think there is a plan B at for ITV that they might cover more at Lingfield, I think. So watch this space. But it's really important if you're entering the Tips the League that you're only including races that are on ITV Racing. You need to reply to the comment on this video in order for it to be valid. If you need to edit it, you need to delete your original entry and redo it. I think the first race is actually 155, I think, that's scheduled to be on, and the deadline for the competition is 2. So yes, if you need to change something or something's happened, whatever, delete it and re-enter it. But yeah, it needs to be replied to the comment. Maximum 3 selections. 10 point is your balance. No multiples, no decimal points. I think most people are getting it. There was only a few needed a bit of corrections. The key thing is making sure you reply to the Tips the League comment. That's the kind of main thing. And then don't edit it. And then make sure it's one of the races on the TV. Do those things. That'll be grand. And it really, 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 really helps me and Stephen if you can write it out as per I've written in the comment very nicely, which is time, race, horse, stake. That's what you want. Time, race, horse, stake. Put that in. That'll be brilliant. Sunday, I mean, there's a lot of potential abandonments and stuff as well. But what would be left is the Chelmsford meeting in the evening. And normally I'd say I'll be having a proper look at it and there's a chance of a bonus video. I'm just not keen because of the weather situation. So whatever storm we're on to now, is it ice? I think it begins with I. Storm, beginning the 9th one, I think it is. There's really high winds forecast. Chelmsford's forecast 50-60 mile an hour. at points, and so yeah, I'm not quite sure what that's going to do to impact the racing, whether the racing would still be on, if it is on, how that's going to impact kind of how horses' running performance, because yeah, some horses clearly will be more impacted by running in a headwind, and there'll be more impact to horses running from the front and that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, normally I'd say there's a chance. I think it's unlikely, but I will kind of keep an eye on it and update you. I could probably do with just having a day of not doing a video, to be honest, because I did bonus videos earlier this week, and it also takes its toll when we're having an absolute rubbish one like this week. So yeah, so I think I'm going to be back Tuesday, and then next week, so there'll be videos Tuesday night and Wednesday night, and then it will probably be Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then I think it might be a Friday morning video from Dublin, because I shall be over there next week ready for channel meetup Friday evening at Dundalk. They haven't yet finalised what time the first race is. Normally you don't properly get it till 48 hours before, in case that sometimes they split out the handicaps and have multiple divisions. So it probably is at like a 5 o'clock first race, 5:30, but this yesterday's Fridays was a bit earlier than that. So if you're going to Dundalk and you're going to meet up, I'll update on the channel, but it's worth just keeping an eye on something like Sporting Life, so you can actually see what time the first race is going to be at Dundalk. But yeah, next week the plan would be a Tuesday night video, a Wednesday night video, and then we'd be looking at a Friday morning video from somewhere in Dublin, from a mobile studio. Maybe I'll go in like a phone box or something. I don't know. If they got phone boxes in Dublin, I don't know how retro we're going, but yeah, I'll find somewhere to maybe broadcast from some sort of hotel bedroom toilet or something like that. I've seen people do that. Yeah, it's not a good look, is it? So anyway, right, I think I'll finish there. All right, you have a good weekend, whatever you're doing, and yeah, I'm sorry it's not been my weekend if you've been following along, and hopefully if you've been following along as per channel stakes, therefore you shouldn't be impacted. And if you've been doing more than that, then check yourself, because you need to make sure these things are in control. I was going to do, actually, I'm not going to do it now, but I'm going to mention that. I haven't talked about that for a while, but at some point on a video in the next couple of weeks, I am going to talk about addiction. So I'm going to go slightly more serious conversation. But yeah, addiction and the difference between gambling addiction, betting addiction, horse racing addiction. They all get muddled in together, but there are different things. And I think it's worth everybody at some point, however you choose to play the game, checking yourself that you are in control of all aspects of the mental side of this. All right, that's me on a slightly more poignant note than usual. I will be back, as I said, I think on Tuesday night. Have a lovely weekend. I've said that. I'll say it again. See you the other side. Bye-bye.